Be a lot of strikes, and number 2, a lot of ground balls. Well, here's Carney Lansford, very aggressive, first ball hitter, rarely walks, and he will provide quite a threat immediately. First ball hit, slow roller to Hamilton. Off balance throw is just in time.
La Russa has come up on the top step. He may come out to talk to him. Fleming, that is. La Russa's walking past the dugout. He's not at all happy with that call.
Jeff Hamilton appeared to take too much time and made it a slower play. Let's see if he had a good grip, because he didn't have much on the throw at all. Out of the glove.
He can't get it out, and it really almost throws a change of pace, and awful close. I couldn't tell on that angle. I tell you, Stubbs made a nice play digging it out, because that ball dies. He had a little trouble gripping that ball. He throws it 3/4, and there's a short hop. I would say he was safe on that angle.
Well, a couple of things now have come true. Carney Lansford, a first ball hitter, and Hershiser got a ground ball. And now here is Dave Henderson. Fastball will miss, ball 1. Last night, Henderson, a first ball hitter, had a couple of base hits because the Dodgers thought they were pitching him correctly up and in, and he fooled them. There's a strike. 1-1. So we'll see if Hershiser tries to change the pattern a little bit, because Henderson had a single to center and a double to right.
That first single he got was a breaking ball.
Sinker in there. 1-2.
That's the tough pitch.
Waiting on deck, the big man, Jose Canseco. One out, first inning, no score, as we just start out on a beautiful day here in Los Angeles. Sinker too low. That's a tough pitch for the hitter to lay off, especially with 2 strikes. Henderson showed a great deal of discipline to take that one.
Socia will actually sit on that outside corner until he sees the adjustment made by the Oakland hitters, and then Hershiser is known to really throw a high sinker, and it works like a cut fastball.
And he ran that away, and he goes all the way to Henderson as Canseco waits. Last night, Oakland received a half a dozen walks, and of course the walk to Dave Stewart allowed Canseco to eventually come up and hit a grand slam. Got it. And he came inside. So after starting him at the knees and missing away, Hershiser challenged Henderson and got away with it.
Baseball is a constant game of adjustments, and you can see that ball runs in, and he really ties up Henderson's arms. It looked like a big swing, but he really had already committed himself, and what a pitch by Hershiser. But that's not unusual for him.
Hershiser's high in strikeouts during the year 9. And here's the big guy now, Jose Canseco, who hit one of the more memorable home runs I think I've ever seen here. Fouls it away. Remember last night, the grand slam home run he hit? The velocity of the ball going out went on a straight line and actually hit the camera. Jimmy Mott, you see the dent right there where the ball hit, and Jimmy asked Jose Canseco, would you sign it for me? And there you have it. Jose Canseco, Grand Slam 88 World Series. He put a dent in the ball, in the camera, and in the game. What a player.
I'd like to see that on Jimmy's mantle.
1 ball and 1 strike.
Be some trophy, huh?
Sure would be. You know, another thing about Canseco we wondered about, we talked about that ferocious swing he had last night. I wanted to check his bat today as he hits a high fly ball to right center, but it's playable. Marshall is there to pick it off. We'll tell you more about Canseco's bat later on. At the end of half an inning, 8-0. Dodgers coming up. John Shelby in center, Mike Socia behind the plate. Jeff Hamilton at third, Alfredo Griffin the shortstop, and the pitcher Orel Hershiser. And on the mound trying to stop him, the big right-hander, George Earl Davis, but everybody calls him Storm. When his mother was expecting, she read a book and the main character was named Dr. Storm, so she wanted him to have the same qualities, consequently the name Storm.
Well, I hope that doctor came from over the top, because that's what he does. If he's going to get wild, he'll be wild high, and his curveball's a big downer.
And he starts low and hard for ball 1, 1-0. Sachs, who was hit leading off the game last night, checking in, followed by Stubbs and Hatcher.
To believe that was the adrenaline pumping there, because he really held on and squeezed that one.
1-0. At That's in there for a strike, 1-1. As Tommy Lasorda talks to Bill Russell talks upstairs to Joe Ferguson, the eye in the sky, and to set defense. But right now, they don't have to worry about that. Meanwhile, Tony La Russa, flanked by his coaches, deep in thought after that heartbreaking defeat last night. And by the way, if there's one thing I really would like to add about last night, and it has nothing to do with Kirk Gibson, here's the 1-1 pitch to Sags. A strike. I really have tremendous admiration for Dennis Eckersley, who handled himself so well, who met with the media, answered every question asked of him. Remarkable.
Not only did he answer the questions, he didn't play around. They said to him, "Do you second guess the pitch?" He said, "Now I do. I tried to make a nasty pitch. I didn't make it, and he hit it."
He told one of my favorite people, Bob Verdi, the Chicago Tribune columnist, a great line. A little chopper over the mound, charging it is Hubbard. Little Glenn throws and got him. Nice play. One away. When Bob Verdi was talking to Dennis Eckersley today, and he knew Denny when he played in Chicago, and Verdi said, "Well, how are you?" And Dennis suddenly reverted to the parlance of golf. He said, "Well, if you're going to take an 8, you might as well do it on the first hole." So anyway, our heartiest congratulations, a salute to Dennis Eckersley. That was remarkable.
How about La Russa, who said if today's game comes to the 9th inning and there are 2 outs, and Eckersley's going to have the ball if I got a 1-run lead.
You can bet the house on that. Franklin Stubbs in the count 0-1. Franklin's name would be filed under the just missed category on that fly ball he hit last night. He missed by a fraction of an inch of beating Kirk Gibson to the draw. 0-2.
Starting to say this is a good mound for Davis because it's nice and high, and when you come over the top like that, it really gives the hitter the feeling that you're going uphill. And when he throws that big overhand curveball, which he's yet to throw, it really looks like an even bigger break.
Fastball away, 1-2. And the other thing that the slope of this mound will do, it will make you follow through because you have to go down.
Fall down, sure.
Dwight Gooden has said it's his favorite mound in the league. Fastball popped in the air, foul off third and going out of play. You know, talking about the human side of a man, Storm Davis had so many problems in finding his own identity. When he went to Baltimore, I think everybody expected him to be another Jim Palmer. In fact, he even tried to copy, emulate, imitate Palmer, and it just wasn't right. And then when he went to San Diego, he and Larry Bowa didn't get along at all. In fact, Bowa put the put-down line of all time on Storm Davis. The Padres with the SD on their cap for San Diego, and Bowa said, "Davis thinks the initials on the cap mean Storm Davis." High fly ball to left field. Dave Parker, who hadn't been playing out there since June, makes the play.
Storm Davis is one of those guys, too, that lives under a cloud, let's call it that. Unlimited potential. The 2 worst words in the English language. Here's Mickey Hatcher, and he's symbolic of this Dodger club. And here's the scouting report. Now, we've asked one manager, who will have to remain nameless, a couple scouts, and they said, "Now, don't use my name." That is about as accurate as it gets.
And a one-hopper off the glove of Carney Lansford and on out into left field. So Hatcher, a big turn, and now gets back. The thing about Hatcher, the crowd identifies with him because he is every man. He is awkward. He does nothing beautiful about his game, and everyone relates to him, which is why he's such a crowd favorite.
Lansford was saying that the ground is very rough there. Ron Say was here, and they were talking about it, and Say said, "You should have played here when we had the crushed brick." And Lansford said, "Well, we had that in Anaheim," but he said, "This is no picnic, especially if you got a third baseman who digs around there all the time." And Carney's had himself a time out there.
So Hatcher at first with 2 out, and he certainly doesn't figure to do very much running. He never stole a base, nor was he involved in a stolen base. And with 2 out, and the club's leading RBI man, Marshall at the plate, Hatcher figures to be pretty stationary at first base.
And he's tough when he gets ahead of the pitcher. Hit 377 with 16 home runs when he's ahead.
That's in there, and the count 1-1. It is a very bright, shiny day. The sun splashed again all over the hills, and it's one of those days where you see mountains back of mountains, and the lights have not taken effect, although the field itself is in shade. It should be a little tough to get any kind of a jump on a good fastball on the hands and hit right into the Dodger dugout. And it almost hit Tim Cruz, who's had bad luck anyway since he was not eligible for the playoffs or the World Series.
You know, Marshall hitting .377 with 16 home runs ahead of the count. It tells you something. He hits .212 with 4 home runs when he's behind because he's such a free swinger chasing the bad ball.
1 ball and 2 strikes. Half swing. They look at Bruce Fleming. No swing. It'll give us a moment. Derwood Merrill of the American League behind the plate. Bruce Fleming of the National at first. Darrell Cousins of the American at second. Jerry Crawford of the National at third, with Doug Harvey on the line in right, and Larry McCoy of the American League on the line in left. 2 balls, 2 strikes. Fastball and fouled away.
He really pulled the trigger in a hurry. Hit that high into the upper deck, almost parallel with the third base. I mean, that's really starting that trigger. Here's a report on Mike Marshall. He certainly is the best fastball hitter. Undisciplined, he'll chase a breaking pitch. He says, I just roll the dice. You make a mistake, he'll hit it with power. He certainly will.
2-2. Fouled away. Another thing about Storm Davis, just think of the pitchers he's encountered now in his last starts. He went against Teddy Higuera twice. Then he faced Frank Viola. Then he went against Roger Clemens. And now he goes up against Oral Hershiser.
So he's probably got that whole list memorized, Vin, ready for arbitration.
2-2. Checked on a ground foul outside of first. Marshall wasn't sure what to do. That was a good pitch down and away, and he's fortunate he fouled it.
One thing about Marshall, when he's not sure, he's going to swing.
You know, Keith Hernandez was saying before the League Championship Series that of all the Dodgers, Marshall is the one that scares him the most, because when he's hot, he can hit a ball over his head and hit it out of the ballpark. There's no real way to pitch to him. But, of course, if he's not hot, he will look awkward, chase a lot of pitches, and will sit down.
When he is hot, he's one of those guys who, when you got 2 strikes on him, you're in the hole.
2 balls, 2 strikes, 2 out. Hatcher at first. First inning, no score. Where'd you start? And that big overhand breaking ball low, ball 3.
The big downer is the way they refer to it in the old neighborhood. That's the one we used to call the drop. Remember the drop? That was it right there. Overhand curveball.
3-2 the count of Mike Marshall with 2 down. Hatcher going on the pitch. Mickey goes. Fastball got him. He foul tipped it, and Ron Hassey held on to it. No runs, a hit, a man left. At the end of an inning, no score. In the lead last night. He's basically an uppercutter in what we have seen of him. So if you get the ball in his wheelhouse, he will hit a towering home run. So the Dodgers will probably try to keep the ball up on him, even though Hershiser's stock in trade is to keep the ball down. Ground ball to Griffin. He feeds Sachs. He goes to Stubbs. Double play.
And Parker did his best to try to take Sachs out of the play, and Sachs just jumped straight up in the air. And I'll tell you, that's quite a feat when you stop to think who's coming down. Dave Parker. Watch him when he makes the pivot. Now Parker is coming. There he goes. The 515 goes right by him.
Parker, in case you wonder, is 6'5" and 240, and you know you can hear him coming.
Oh, if I tell you, if Saxey gets hit, he'll staple him right to the left field wall.
So 2 down in the 2nd inning. And now Ron Hassey coming up. Hassey finished up the ball game last night and now has a chance offensively.
Vin Hershiser has gotten 5 outs on 13 pitches. You wonder why he wins all those games?
A lot of strikes, a lot of ground balls. There's another one. We told you that's a sure tip-off on the kind of stuff he has. So the A's are gone in the 2nd at the end of an inning and a half. No score. A former teammate of Storm Davis at Baltimore hits the first pitch to Mark McGwire. 1 up, 1 away.
Well, I have to believe, Vin, when you throw a curveball that big on the first pitch, even though he didn't get a base hit, Shelby was certainly looking for it, because that was a big down.
I was wondering, and I've never had the experience in court you have, What it must be like to play in a World Series, big crowd, national television, and how you ever learn to relax. And I found out a somewhat interesting thing about Storm Davis. Storm Davis relearned a breathing technique from his pregnant wife's Lamaze class, and he uses that to relax on the mound. Foul ball.
Well, when you get right down to it, that is far more important than the World Series game.
Sure.
It certainly would help it.
So now we know of two things. We know Storm Davis has the breathing he learned from the Lamaze, and Brian Holton sings when he loosens up. 0-2 the count. 1 out, second inning, no score. I mean, I tighten up selecting a blue tie, so I don't know how they ever survive this kind of tension. Lasorda, hitting instructor Ben Hines. And by the way, both clubs very, very loose today. In fact, they were both kind of, as you look at last night's one of many heroes, looking at casually at football games on television, hollering, and you would think it was just another day in the ballpark, but that's 5 hours ago.
I tell you, I just can't comprehend what he went through this morning when he woke up and realized what he had done last night.
He took hitting early today. In other words, he took live hitting in the batting cage, not against a machine. And after taking live hitting at 1 o'clock, he still said, "I can't play."
He talked like he was going to be in a trainer's room for most of the game, like last night, but here he is on the bench.
2 balls and 2 strikes to Mike Scioscia. In on the hands to blow him away. $1 million pitch against a guy who doesn't strike out.
You see Hasse move right in on him, and Storm Davis really hit the target. Hasse's kind of like his private catcher, and it is a big asset when the catcher and the pitcher work so closely. Look at Hasse move right in there and watch that ball. I mean, it is right in the glove, just absolutely dead perfect. Even if Mike hits that ball, he's just going to have a handful of toothpicks.
Perfect pitch. Davis is not a strikeout pitcher. His high 7. He did that 3 times, but all 3 times he struck out 7 was in the first half of the season. Here's Jeff Hamilton. Ball 1. Hamilton last night, 0 for 4, struck out twice, came up in a big spot in the 6th inning and was jammed, cracked his bat, and hit into a double play. So it was all part of the educational experience. He's the one we said does not walk. It's pretty hard, really, to walk him. You just can't get the old expression about a Bible
hitter, thou shalt not pass.
Yeah.
One of the things about Davis, he gives you that slow, deliberate wind-up, and then here he comes.
Hard and away, ball 2. 2-1. I would expect the Dodgers to take a lot of pitches from Davis because he's inclined, like so many others, to fight his control. So the hitter's trying to be a little patient. Ground ball to the hole, deep in the hole, backhanded by Weiss. Off balance throw, got him. What a play!
What a major league play to get that much on that throw while he's in midair.
Walt Weiss, an outstanding play, and it's no score.
Weiss, who just made that sensational play coming up, watch this play and count the steps that he has to use to get to it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. In midair, he has to control his body and get something on it, and he gets him in plenty of time. Perfect body control, and he had to really cover a lot of ground. 7 steps is a lot. When you talk about making a play in a hole, that's the page you would turn to.
Well, you can understand, number one, why they could trade away Alfredo Griffin. You can certainly understand why he is an outstanding candidate for Rookie of the Year. Boy, can he pick it. It'll be Hubbard, Weiss, and Storm Davis.
Vin, I always marvel at those guys who can get in midair and control their body and get enough on the throw. Usually they'll throw big infield flies over there. That ball had pretty much on it.
Well, here's a little man with big talent, made sizable contributions last night, Glenn Hubbard. Hubbard with a couple of base hits. He's a very tough out. He doesn't give you any strike zone. Ball 1, 1-0. No score, 3rd inning. That's in there. 1 ball. lately, Glenn?
Ben Hershiser in the first 2 innings, 6 up, 6 down, and Lansford, Parker, and Hassey all hit the first pitch. So maybe LaRussa said something to Hubbard. Hey, let's take some pitches on this guy.
I would think you first ball him and you're playing right into his hand. That's a sinker low. The other thing, of course, if you're a hitter against Hershiser, make him bring the ball up.
And there are many theories on that. Move up on the plate is one. It's well known, but the Oakland A's against Tommy John had Baylor to explain to him you should move back.
In there. Kind of nice. You see a rookie like Walt Weiss playing in the World Series and the kid playing second base next to him. It's his first World Series experience. 10 years in the major leagues for Glenn Hubbard.
And you can bet Hubbard said, listen, Walt, you enjoy this one because they don't happen every year.
2-2. Big breaking ball, but it stayed up all three.
Just asked Joey Amalfitano coaching for the Dodgers. His first one was 1954 with the Giants in DeRocher against Cleveland.
And he was on the phone with Leo DeRocher before last night's game, still calling him Skip.
Yeah, and I'm sure Skipper said, Joey, you got any tickets?
3-2 the count. We're in the third. The lights have not taken effect yet. It's still a little tough to pick off that ball. Fastball jammed him, popped up, and Hershiser's going to catch it or try. One down.
That's what he calls the high sinker. Now, that's almost contradictory. What can be a high sinker? He calls it the high sinker, but he says when I throw it, it runs, and it runs inside, and that's what happened to Hubbard. He got it up and in, and he hit it right on the hand.
You know, I've seen some remarkable pitching performances. Don Larson's perfect game in the World Series. Sandy Koufax's perfect game. I was fortunate to see Don Drysdale's 58 straight. I never saw anything quite like Hershiser. Not only go 59 straight, go another 8 against the Mets in the LCS. He went, although the record won't show it, he went 67 consecutive scoreless innings. It's still hard to believe.
It is. And I tell you, they were hard. I mean, he was in charge. It's not like he got a lot of breaks. What he does with men in scoring position is just unreal.
No balls and 1 strike to count. 1 out in the third, no score. Changed up and missed 1-1. Orel will have a new contract to negotiate this year, and the feeling in Los Angeles is he will probably get all the land west of the Mississippi. 1-1. Ball 2.
You know what he does with men in scoring position? The opponents that batted just 194. Men in scoring position, he's allowed just 5 home runs with runners on base.
He's had a dream year on the way to win 23. The 2-1 pitch on the way, a comebacker, and he pulled it down, throws him out.
He's a good fielder, so it was not that tough a play. I just want to go back to all this Lamb business now. You think anything's left after Gretzky?
Talking about Gretzky, it's funny now you say that. Hershiser, a remarkable athlete, as that play would tell you. He's about a 4 handicapper in golf. He was a wonderful amateur hockey player. He played in a junior team for the Philadelphia Flyers, who played Wayne Gretzky and the Kings last night, and the Flyers are here tonight watching the game. Now,
I'm glad I asked that question. I'll tell you, I can't wait to get to the cocktail party now.
0-1 to count to Storm Davis. No score, third inning.
Storm Davis really took that married man stance and swing at that one. He was just happy that he just flagged it. And by the way, when Hershiser went 2-1 to Weiss, that was the first time to date he went 2 consecutive balls.
We have 2 out, top of the third, no score. Game 2. And now Socha's going out as if something's wrong.
Yeah.
We're looking at Canseco, but meanwhile, Orel might have felt something on that pitch. Wait a minute.
He walked right off the mound, and he kind of almost like meditating.
And something was bothering him. He has had I think it's in legs. He has been shaking his legs as if somehow he felt a little tight on that pitch.
Certainly can't.
See that?
Yeah, he can't feel extra pressure with Davis because he did not take that big swing.
0-2. Okay, that's fouled at the plate. Lost in all the headlines and stories about last night. Was that at bat in the second inning when Dave Stewart, with the count no balls and 2 strikes, got a walk that extended the inning and allowed Canseco to hit the slam. But it's tough on the American League pitchers while the games are in the National League Park. 1-2. Storm's been here before. He pitched a couple times for the San Diego Padres here. 1 ball and 2 strikes. Oh, what a breaking ball. That's Dirty Pool again.
Well, he just hasn't seen one since San Diego.
And at the end of 2.5, no score.
Goes Kirk Gibson and Bill Bueller, the trainer. Gibson, who I imagine he's given him his diagnosis, man. He's been the expert on injuries so far. It appears to be everything's all right.
Alfredo Griffin fouling a pitch away, 0-1. I was just thinking, they haven't been talking about legs here in this town since Brooke Shields arrived. 0-1 to count.
Lansford trying to take the bunt away from Griffin. He's really in tight at third.
Fastball away, 1 ball and 1 strike. Griffin, who had a very difficult year with the bat last night, managed to get a base hit, a walk, and then tried to bunt his way aboard. He's always a threat to bunt left-handed. 1-2. He did not hit at any time during the year, nor from either side of the plate. And missed 50-some-odd games with a broken hand. 2-2. Hasse thought they had it.
Umpires don't like that at all, and as you go back, I'm sure Durwood will say something. Look, Ron, people in hooks think I'm a pretty good umpire. Don't you do that again. He hit the target, but it looked like it was inside.
2 balls and 2 strikes to Alfredo Griffin. No score, bottom of the third. Kind of poked that fastball away. That's been his problem. That's not a swing. That's not a hack. You take a look at that poke by Alfredo Griffin, and you get an idea of why he's had so many problems. He was cheated. That just wasn't a swing. That was kind of groping.
They call that a hope swing. I hope I get the bat on it. I hope it drops in. I hope it goes foul.
And he pops it in the air foul. Carney Lansford on the line. Now in foul territory to put him away. 1 down.
You certainly can see that the Storm is not afraid to come inside, and good pitchers will do that. And when he misses, he's missing towards the hitter, because if he misses over the plate, look out.
Oral Hershiser coming up with 1 out in the 3rd inning, no score. You talk about tongue-in-cheek. Bulk up and bill myself as the mad professor. He is a very, very good bunter. He will try to bunt for a base hit, but remember, there was a definite feeling while he was pitching to Storm Davis that his legs were a little tight. 1-0. He showed bunt again, ball 2.
The other thing he does well, he pulls the third baseman in by shortening up, and then he'll take a hack at it by faking bunt and just chopping down on it.
During the regular year, he had 11 hits. 2-1 to count. If Hershiser is asked to move a runner along, that's really his specialty. Lansford has to play him on the grab.
There it is. He faked the bunt. He pulls him in. Casey used to call that the old butcher boy. Give it to butcher boy.
2 balls and 2 strikes. Oral Hershiser, 1 away in the 3rd, no score. Hard breaking ball, a slider miss, ball 3.
Wouldn't you love to hear Casey try to define quality pitch, backdoor sliders, and all the new terms we have?
3-2 the count. La Russa now watching Storm Davis, and there's a base hit to center.
He faked the bunt and does it again.
Well, he's a handy man with the bat. And after having had 11 during the year, it's really not a surprise to see him single to center. Now, of course, we'll see if he's asked to run and what effect that might have on his leg. That'll bring up Steve Sax. So a 1-out single, the Dodgers' 2nd hit, and they lost another hit, remember, on that great play by Walt Weiss. Sax rolled to the right side, 0 for 1. 0-1. If they get the ball down on Sax, in other words, if Storm Davis tries to keep it down, Sax is about as good as the Dodgers have in going to right field or center field. And he's looking at Amalfitano to see if they might want him to take a shot at right.
He's got a gap there. It'll be his option, and being the hitter he is, I'm sure he'll at least try it.
Ball 2 because Davis is keeping the ball up and too far up. 2-0.
That's the way he'll be wild. He'll be wild high, and you can see Hasse just kind of motioning to him to get it down.
Now the decision is Lasorda's. I know I'm supposed to exercise patience with Davis because he's inclined to be wild, but do I let Sachs go after a 2-0 pitch? Let's see.
I would.
2-1.
You figure he's going to get the fastball. The curveball, he don't have that bigger strike zone, and maybe Saxey can punch it in the right field, but he had a pretty good cut at that like he was trying to pull it. The ball he seems to pull is the breaking ball. The fastball, he'll hit it from center field to the right field line.
And he tried to go to right, hit it inside out. It was on the hands, and he couldn't get it. Hit it back into the crowd, and the count 2 balls, 2 strikes. The Dodgers are inclined to play a lot of hit and run, but particularly with 2 hitters. And the 2 hitters are Mike Scioscia and Jeff Hamilton.
I don't think it'd be unusual to see Hershiser go.
And he went to right and has his base hit. And Hershiser's going to test Canseco. The throw to third, he's in there. Think Steve Sachs is as good a right-hand hitter to go to right field as I've seen in years.
He just laid that bat out there. Now look at Hershiser. They're going to challenge the Oakland outfield. Even Canseco, who has that good arm, you saw it in normal replay, and Hershiser did not stop. They're going to challenge everybody. You know they're going to challenge Parker in left and Henderson in center. Maybe a little bit of doubt with Canseco, but in the playoffs he did not throw that well, and the Dodgers are going to challenge him.
Now here's another interesting decision for Lasorda. You have a feast or famine hitter. Franklin Stubbs is a fly ball hitter who strikes out a lot. A strike. Knowing that he is a strikeout hitter, and B, a fly ball hitter, you're not really worrying that much about a double play ball. And you have a very good runner in Sachs at first.
I'd let that bat in his hands right now, Vin.
0-1. And there's the ground ball, base hit to right. Hershiser scores, and Sachs will go to third. 1-0 Dodgers.
The very reason, as you see Sachs talking to Amalfitano, with McGuire holding the runner on a big hole, and Stubbs was able to pull it through there. Big play. He did not hit that ball that hard, but in a perfect spot.
Time for the moment. They're going to try and calm down Storm Davis a little bit.
Here it is right here. That ball is just absolutely dead perfect. If McGuire's in a normal defensive position, he makes that play, but having to hold the runner on, and the Dodgers once again don't even hesitate. They go first to third.
And I know that La Russa, in going out there, would say if you ever had to get the ball up on a hitter, it was Stubbs, but with a runner at third, I'm sure he was hoping to get a double play ground ball.
He was trapped. He was really handcuffed, because if he gets the ball up, he gets the fly ball, the run is in. If he gets the ground ball at the second base, got the double play.
So it is 1-0 Dodgers on 4 hits, spearheaded by Hershiser's 1-out single up the middle. Russell, Tim Cruz, and Lasorda over. And Tony La Russa, meanwhile, having counseled Storm Davis, goes back into the dugout.
And here's a guy that uses the entire field and puts the ball in play, so you're liable to see anything now.
Hatcher 1-for-1, singled in the first inning to left field. Little acting job, the pitch, good portion of the plate. Hatcher spinning away. 0-1. First and third and 1 out. Hatcher hit a 2-run home run last night, but he also struck out, which is almost as rare. He had 1 home run during the regular year, and he had only struck out 7 times all year.
Amalfitano and Sachs really acting it out, talking, and if nothing else, it puts the idea of a squeeze play in your mind, even though it's this early.
Runner going, chopper up the middle, into center field. Sachs will score. Stubbs to third, in there, down to second, Hatcher.
Again, they're not beautiful base hits, but in the right spot with the runner breaking. He had both infielders moving, and Stubbs had to actually jump over. Here's the pitch once again. Now, right back, he hits down on it. Now, they are still challenging everybody. Even though Stubbs had a little trouble getting around second base, he went on over to third.
Walt Weiss came within inches of at least keeping the ball on the field and maybe even scrambling for a forced play at second, but the ball just eluded him. So Mike Marshall, who is the big RBI man, but also inclined to strike out, up there with the infield out. Strike. Stubbs at third, Hatcher at second, 4 consecutive hits for 2 runs. Last night, you might remember, the Dodgers had 3 consecutive hits.
And you look at him. Hershiser with 2 strikes, makes the bunt, hits it up the middle. Sachs punches it to right. Stubbs squibs one through.
Fastball fouled away, and right away, Marshall is in trouble. No balls, 2 strikes. Watch this bouncer up the middle, and especially watch Walt Weiss.
Watch his swing. He swung down. He was going to make sure he got it down. Now Weiss, it goes by him. Now watch Stubbs. He has to jump over him, land on the bag, and he challenges Henderson. I mean, when you got the infield moving like that, look at Amalfitano making sure he got down, because they're going to go from first to third all day long.
Fouled away. Good pitch down and in. Tough pitch to handle, and Marshall fortunate to get a piece of it. Here is Stubbs now. You'll see Weiss, a head-first dive, just missed it, and then Franklin hurdling him to go to third.
And watching the play all the way, it was a hit-and-run play, and when he jumps over Weiss, he lands on the bag.
0-2. High fly ball into deep left field. Back goes Parker on the track at the wall. Gone! Swinging by Shelby, and he does as he did before, grounds it to McGuire with a second out with Davis covering.
Marshall is in that category that some guys hit the ball where it's pitched, he hits it if it's pitched.
Another thing to keep in mind, it has been very, very hot in Los Angeles. The temperature today in the 90s. That ball carried better than it would earlier in the year or on a cool evening. That's why Parker went all the way up against the wall as it just kept carrying, and a fan caught it with a glove. Ball 1, Mike Scioscia. So the Dodgers leading the A's 5-0. But of course, with the kind of a lineup the A's have, they certainly can't get down.
Oh, no.
High pop fly, going out is Weiss, coming in is Parker, and it's Big Dave. But the Dodgers post a high 5 on the scoreboard, and 3 of them knocked in by number 5. The opposition, and he gestured to the bench. He has regretted that since the day it happened. You will notice now that on a home run, he will not show even the slightest bit of emotion. Meanwhile, the runners are just the other way around.
Look at Stubbs. Jerry Crawford ready to call if the ball is caught. Lasorda, very conservative, of course. Yay! He jumps up. And, of course, Mickey Hatcher every day to him is New Year's Eve or Christmas morning. I mean, he doesn't have a bad day, this fella.
So it is an interesting string of numbers. The Dodgers score 5. Number 55 on the mound, and number 5, Mike Marshall, had a lot to do with it. And now the A's, undaunted, try to come back, and certainly they have the firepower to do it. This is a ball club that scored 800 runs during the regular year. Lansford, Henderson, and Canseco. 2 balls and no strikes.
Hershiser has been very effective inside. He's been jamming the hitters. He got Lansford, Henderson, and Parker. That was the pitch of decision, the out pitch on those 3 fellas the first time around.
2-0 the count to Carney. In there, 2-1. In all of his at-bats this year, Lansford only walked 35 times, so you know you have a very aggressive hitter here.
You know, Oakland has to be thinking a 5-run lead for Hershiser, and also, I'm sure, thinking about the great job that the bullpen of the Dodgers did yesterday. They really got lost in the shuffle.
Chopper foul outside of third, knocked down by Jimmy Lefevre, who wears 5. And, of course, it was the Rookie of the Year for the Dodgers in 1965. Played in the 65 and 66 World Series here. 2-2 the count. Meanwhile, Storm Davis thinking of what might have been. And Lansford appears to chase one. That's the 3rd strikeout for Orel Hershiser.
And when you pitch inside, this is what it does for you. This one was out of the strike zone, and Lansford, kind of leaning back, just can't get his swings over it. He was hoping he would at least foul it off, and that's when you hear fellas talk about fighting off a tough pitch. That's what he was trying to do.
Here's Dave Henderson. He struck out in the first inning. Dave 0 for 1. Off speed for a strike. Wow, what a pitch.
Well, you don't think that scouting report helped a little bit? First ball, fastball hitter, so you throw him up that big marshmallow. 77 miles per hour. He'd have been arrested on the freeway out here for throwing it that slow.
So he started him with a balloon. 0-1. And off speed again, strike 2.
Now watch the doctor operate. See what he does here. He's got Henderson thinking to himself he can go any one of 5 different ways. He can come inside, he can bounce one up there, he can throw another change of pace.
And Henderson coming off a great year, a comeback year. After being lost last season, he came back with 24 home runs and 94 ribbies. 0-2. Fastball low, 1-2.
See where he missed, though? There was no way he was going to miss over the plate.
That's when you talk about a comeback year. Look at the difference from last year to this. Breaking ball, got him swinging. 3 consecutive strikeouts for Hershiser. 4 strikeouts in the game, and we have 2 out in the 4th inning, and now here comes the guy who makes the earth shake. Remember when Jose Canseco hit earlier, we were talking about his bat. He's such a big guy, and you wonder what kind of a bat does he use as far as size and weight. He is 6'3" and 230. He swings a 36-inch, 36-ounce bat. Now that's pretty big, but I did a little survey, and for instance, Bob Watson, who was the hitting coach for the Oakland A's, Bob had a 38-inch, 40-ounce bat, like a telephone pole. In there, some others who had heavy bats, Dick Allen had a 40-ounce bat. Roberto Clemente had a 38-inch, 38-ounce bat, and little Matty Alou swung a 40-ounce bat.
Yeah, but Alou just let the ball hit the bat and run.
Foul back.
His bat, too, Ben. The first guy I ever saw do that was Musial. Musial would shave down the handle. He has the bat boy shaved down the handle. All the weight is in Canseco's, the barrel of Canseco's bat. Very thin handle. And look at the size of that. Now, there are housing developments that don't weigh that much.
That's the defensive front 5.
Oh.
1-2 the count to Jose Canseco.
Baylor is the midget in that group.
Another fellow I understand is Kevin McReynolds of the New York Mets. His bat is 38 ounces. Boy, you got to be strong to swing that kind of thing all
Well, that's
summer.
when they talk about explosive strength that Canseco has.
1-2. Behind him, off speed to the backstop. That's not a pitch for intimidation. You
can see him laughing.
Canseco laugh. It was just an off-speed slip.
That's like the bar of soap in the shower slipping out. Look where Socha is. And I mean, he doesn't miss that much. And Canseco has to laugh at that one.
2 balls and 2 strikes.
You can see him try to twist it, and it just didn't do anything. Socha didn't come within a foot of it.
I was just wondering, Canseco's been hit 10 times this year, but of course Don Baylor always wins that. He was hit a dozen times. Half swing, got him. He strikes out the side. 4 consecutive strikeouts and 5 in the game.
And handle down. Of course, somebody's always got to agitate.
Is
with
there
that
a
shower.
conspiracy?
Look at this.
Sound ridiculous?
That's a very tight bench, isn't it?
We were talking before about the Oakland A's having the firepower to come back, trailing the Dodgers 5-0. They came back, you remember, when it appeared as if they were buried by the Red Sox. Meanwhile, Jeff Hamilton, Alfredo Griffin, Oral Hershiser, roller up the middle, and there's Weiss on it behind the bag to get him. That's the second time Walt Weiss has taken a base hit away from Jeff Hamilton.
Hamilton, he tried to get one in the hole, and Weiss comes up with it. Look how far he goes. He must be 7, 8, 10 steps on the other side of second base. Again, throwing off balance and an accurate throw, and it's not even close. That's the amazing thing to me. Gets his balance right here. He's a real acrobat.
Pleasure to watch young Walt Weiss, the shortstop for Oakland. 1 away in the 4th inning. And Alfredo Griffin, who fouled out in the 3rd, coming up. 5 runs, 6 hits for the Dodgers. No runs, 1 hit for the A's. It was a leadoff single by Dave Parker in the 2nd inning.
There's the scouting report. Fastball's up. Best bunter on team certainly will bunt for the base hit. Either way, push it or drag it.
I think that the first words of that scouting report, it's like an albatross around your neck. Very slow bat.
Well, that last time up, you remember he just was hoping that hope swing, that's a slow bat.
0-2 the count. Ground ball, slow batter, no, and it is smothered by Hubbard, who can't make a play. Gee, another great effort by up-the-middle players. First by Weiss. Hubbard made a great stop and just couldn't recover.
He gets a good break on it. He has to go down, and right there, he thinks he's got control of it, but he really doesn't. Almost like he took a peek to see where he was. I don't know. Now, he's got it here. Yeah, he took a peek, and that's what cost him.
So Griffin at first with 1 out. Here is Hershiser. As good a bunter as there is in the team. Not a bad hitter. You saw him single to ignite the 5-run 3rd. And he bunts foul. 0-1.
But again, remember now, that fake bunt, he got the base hit the last time on that, but they want to be sure to get it over. But I would not be surprised to see him do it again because he's so good at it. Amalfitano has flashed his sign.
Griffin was not a base-stealing threat. He stole 7, but he was caught 5 times.
I think he's going to do it because he's showing it so early. He's going to fake the bunt and swing. Look how early he's showing that bunt. I wouldn't believe him.
Now he's going to double-check with Amalfitano.
Probably took it off now and said, okay, you tipped it off, we'll make you bunt. I'd look for straight bunt. But look how early I tell you, he put you in a tough spot.
And fouled away. So one of the better bunters, tied with Rick Russell, as you saw, in the National League. And Storm Davis has him, no balls, 2 strikes.
I'd let him use the same play he used the last time. Fake the bunt and swing. Because he gets the bat on the ball, and Griffin has good speed. What you want to do, of course, is stay away from that double play.
Alfredo Griffin at first, 1 out. 0-2 to Hershiser.
There it is.
And it's away, ball 1. 1-2.
First guy I ever saw do that, man, was Murray Dixon.
Oh.
He could handle that bat. And he would do that all the time.
Boy, it's a great plus.
It is.
Only in the National League.
Yeah.
You can't buy a ticket on a ride in the American League. Had him starting to walk. That was kind of an indication that Griffin was going to go.
and Hershiser's going around. I don't think he's going to bunt. I think he's showing bunt and is going to swing because he's too good at it to bunt.
Of course, when you think about it, if Griffin goes and Hershiser strikes out and they double Griffin up, you walk away and you have Sachs leading off the next inning.
True. So, but if he swings, fakes the bunt and swings and fouls it off, he's still alive.
Griffin is gone, and the pitch is slapped down the line. Fair ball. Griffin is being waved in. Canseco is going to relay to McGuire, and it's over his head. The run scores on a double by Orel Hershiser
with 2 strikes. And he fakes the bunt, and once again they challenge the best arm in the outfield. Maltano didn't hesitate, had Griffin coming all the way, and once the relay missed McGuire, it was an easy play for Griffin to score.
The Dodgers are leading the Athletics 6-0 as you see that line drive just inside the right field foul line. Canseco's throw, since he is running to his glove side, did not have a lot on it. McGuire might have been able to help, but he missed him, and then it just dribbled up the line.
Now watch Griffin. He does not hesitate, and watch Malpatano if he's in the shot. Now, Canseco does not get behind this throw. It's almost like he wants to get rid of it quickly. It's over McGuire's head, and Griffin, I mean, he comes flashing across, even though Sachs was saying slide. It looked like he was motioning down.
And Storm Davis has been unable to weather the storm. It is 6-0 Dodgers with 1 out in the 4th inning. We'll be back. He's leading 6-0, and Gene Nelson trying to restore order now against Steve Sachs, and a breaking ball away, ball 1. Sachs has grounded out and singled to right. The hardest working pitcher on the Oakland staff, Gene Nelson, and he's the kind of a guy who'll pitch every day if need be. He pitched 108 innings in relief, second to Dwayne Ward of Toronto. Chopper to shortstop. Weiss holding Hershiser to throw him out.
Here's that replay on Griffin scoring. Now, he is running full speed. Now, look at Malpatano way down the line. He's waving him all the way. And, of course, when the throw gets by McGuire, it's an easy play for Griffin, even though Sachs is saying get down. Now, Lasorda on the bench is really a cheerleader. Watch him. He's watching. You can read his lips. Come on. He's coaching now. Come on. And you'll see the reaction.
The thing that has to be bothering Tony La Russa especially, you can understand maybe a Mike Marshall hitting a home run because he led the club in RBIs, but the bottom of the Dodger lineup is also bothering Oakland. The number 8 hitter, Alfredo Griffin, has 1 hit and scored a run. The pitcher, Orel Hershiser, has a single and a double. He has scored a run and knocked 1 in. And that has to be maddening when the bottom of the lineup is adding to the havoc that the top of the lineup has already provided. 0-1. 1 ball and 1 strike to Stubbs, who flied to left and singled to right.
I tell you, Hershiser is not an automatic out when he goes into that fake bunt, because when he swings at that ball, he doesn't overswing. He just tries to put the bat on the ball and put it in play, and it's really paid off for him.
1-1. Off speed ball 2. You know, another thing I was thinking of is Tony La Russa has a lot of thoughts. Orel Hershiser pitched close to 270 innings during the regular season. Then he pitched in the LCS. Now he has 4 innings under his belt tonight, and he's running the bases. You wonder just how much stamina he has left and whether he will run out of gas in this game.
Well, that could very well be, but I think he'd be the first guy to tell you, and I tell you, I wouldn't worry about his stamina because the way he takes care of himself.
By the way, you might notice he's running under an assumed name. That's trainer Charlie Strasser's jacket. 3-1. And that's high. So they know he's a low ball hitter, then they walk him high to bring up Mickey Hatcher.
You know, when you talk to Dave Duncan about Gene Nelson, he uses a baseball expression I've heard 1,000 years. He's got good stuff. His fastball will sink when it's down. He's got a good curveball. Not afraid to throw strikes, although he just walks Stubbs here. He'll battle the hitters, is the way Dave puts it.
You know, he was put in as a pinch runner against Toronto, and as a pinch runner, he stole a base. The first pitcher in the American League to steal a base since the designated hitter was introduced. So Gene Nelson is in the history books.
And the other thing that Dave talks about him, he said he's happy in his role as the middle reliever. He doesn't moan about when am I going to be a closer, when am I going to be a starter. This is what you want me to do. I'm glad to do it, and I'll do you a good job.
1-0 the count to Hatcher. 6 runs, 8 hits for the Dodgers. No runs, 1 hit for the Athletics. That's a good portion of the story. There was a 3-run home run by Mike Marshall, and Hershiser is 2 for 2. 1-0. Check swing, a comebacker. Gene has it, throws him out while Hatcher's still in the box. Mickey is still there talking to the plate umpire, and he's done. We'll be back after these messages from your local station.
Really hate this because you really feel cheated. Most guys will throw the bat down and complain. Now watch what Hatcher does. He's a little bit confused, looks around. It's right out of our gang comedy. Spanky says to the umpire, come on, slips don't count. But they do.
The only time you will ever see Hatcher not run, as he was completely tied up. Talking about tied up, there's a man tied up. He's busy at the controls of the Goodyear Blimp Columbia tonight. Captain John Creighton from Redondo Beach, Florida. Right after the game, the Columbia will leave for Oakland. It takes 15 hours by blimp. Redondo Beach, Florida?
You know, you mentioned Florida, Vin. In Lakeland and Plant City, they're going to have a Rip Sewell Appreciation Day on October 28th. Old Ripper had an operation, and they're going to show up and play golf. And Jim Campbell of the Tigers told me about it, and I sure hope the good people around that area, Tampa and Winter Haven and Lakeland, show up for the Ripper.
Indeed.
October 28th, Appreciation Day.
Well, we'll see now if the big guys can come back. It'll be Parker, McGuire, and then Hasse in the 5th inning, among other things, remember. Hershiser, who started Parker with a strike, has struck out 4 consecutive hitters. In case you're interested, the World Series record is 6. 0-1 to Dave, who singled to center in the 2nd inning. 1-1. Right at the left kneecap. Which is the same thing, really, as a knockdown pitch, only it doesn't cause all the furor.
That's right. It just moves him out there and says, hey, I want the inside part of the plate, too.
1-2 the count to Dave Parker.
I call that the Bob Gibson, the great Cardinal pitcher theory. He'd say, I'll give you the middle of the plate, but I want the inside and outside corner.
There's a guy I really feel sorry for. Tim Cruz sitting next to Ron Peranowski. I'll tell you why in a minute. 1-2 the count to Dave Parker. Fouled away. The Dodgers had to make a decision before the LCS, and they opted for 20-year-old Ramon Martinez. And Cruz, who'd been with them all year, had pitched exceptionally well, and especially against the Mets, was ruled ineligible. Now the only way he could get into a game is if someone was injured, so he sits in uniform and thinks of what might have been.
Right.
1-2. Boy, he had him set for the corner, just got it in there, 2-2.
There's another fellow you can put in that category, and that's Fernando.
Oh, yes.
All the great pitching he did here.
But, of course, Fernando,
been there.
He also was hurt.
Right.
The Cruz was healthy and bypassed. 2-2. Change. Grounded. Bad hop over the head of Stubbs. And a glimmer of hope now for the Oakland A's. When you're down something like 6-0, you're always looking for a break, and there it was. A bad hop single over the head of Stubbs. We'll see what that means.
Talk about that infield. The infielders were complaining. Now Stubbs is right there, but it takes a vicious hop way over his head.
So Dave Parker on a kangaroo bounce into right field is 2 for 2. And the batter is Mark McGuire, who grounded into a double play in the 2nd inning. Mark, local boy, went to school here at SC. Should have been inspired when he saw the Trojan band before the game.
Wasn't that something?
Fastball in there at the knees. That's the kind of pitch McGuire would be very unhappy about taking.
And also, if it's a pitch, if he tries to pull, he's going to hit that ground ball to the shortstop like he did in that 2nd inning. Can't pull him.
No balls, 1 strike. Dead low ball hitter. Big chopper into the hole. Backhanded by Griffin to Sachs for 1. To Stubbs. Double play. The ball wasn't hit that hard. It was talk about the very slow bat, right? How about the very quick hands and feet and eyes of Alfredo Griffin? Not to mention the acrobatics of Steve Sachs.
He just got clipped at the end there. Sachs knew it. It could have been certainly an easy thing to just take and make one sure out, but he wasn't happy with that.
A strike to Ron Hassey.
Here's Parker coming down. This is a big man. He can take you out. Now he's got it, and the ball's on its way, and he just does get clipped. I tell you, that's just great playing.
No balls and one strike to Hassey. How did Hershiser react to the double play? It was a big one following the bad hop. Ecstasy.
He's saying, oh, man, on the second division team, we got runners at first and second. I got 2 men out and nobody on.
1 ball, 1 strike. Off speed and away, ball 2. So for one moment there, the A's get a lift. They get a bad hop single. You think, okay, maybe we're in business. Boom. Somebody turns the gas down.
And that looked like a base hit right there because it's in the hole. And if the worst is, I'm sure when you see the play, if you're sitting on the Oakland bench, you say, well, they'll get a force out at second base. You look up and there's 2 outs on the scoreboard.
And it's still only the 5th inning. 2-2 the count to Ron. Is grounded out in the second inning, 0 for 1. Tough night so far for Tony La Russa. But, of course, one consolation, they're going home to the Coliseum. A little fly ball to left. Hatcher coming on. He's there. No runs. A bad hot single. Nobody left. And at the end of 4 1/2, 6-0 Dodgers. The Jewel in Los Angeles opened up in 1962, and it is really open for business now. Mike Marshall, who hit a 3-run home run in the 3rd inning, will start it off with the Dodgers leading 6-0. 0-1.
You talk about 1962, Doug Harvey, who umpired behind the plate last night as the right field line. His first game as a major league umpire was on that day when they opened it here. He was working third base.
And Rene Latchman, the Oakland A's first base coach, was a ball boy, and if he was really lucky, a bat boy. 0-2 the count. Now Marshall, remember, struck out 0-2 in the 1st inning. He hit a 3-run home run, 0-2 in the 3rd. That sums up the kind of hitter he is.
You throw it, he might swing at it. There he goes.
He does. Drives it into the left field corner, and the Cobra can't get it. It's against the fence, and the ball is still in play. Marshall is on his way for 3. The throw to third. He is in there. Can you imagine how Tony La Russa feels where a guy hits a 3-run home run, 0-2, and triples 0-2?
You almost have to bounce that ball up there, and the Dodgers get a break. The fans were leaning over. You see them, but they do not touch the ball, so the Dodgers end up with an extra base. If they touch it, it's a double. They do not touch it, it's a triple, and now they have to come in with the infield. Look at Marshall. He's digging hard, and he's going to challenge Parker all the way.
John Shelby had been first ball swinging against Storm Davis and twice grounded out. Now he's trying to pick up Marshall. The infield is up. 6-0 Dodgers in the 5th inning. Nobody out. Off speed. If you're thinking about a scoring fly ball, for instance, Shelby had a half a dozen during the year. Lansford up inside the bag. 1-1. Strike. 1-2. That was a great effort by Dave Parker. Remember, he'd only played 34 games in left field, hadn't played since June until now, and made a great effort and just came up a buck short as Shelby strikes out. 1 down.
I'll tell you, though, that Hassey's going to have to just impress upon these guys to bounce that ball up if you get 2 quick strikes on Marshall and see how anxious he is.
Dave Parker had to go back and after that dive replace several divots. The entire fairway, in fact. Here's Mike Scioscia. Struck out, fly to left, 0 for 2. The Dodgers 6 runs, 9 hits. Now, a lot of things could happen here because Scioscia's a contact hitter. And he pops it up. Going out to get it is Hubbard. And makes the play. Good pitching by Gene Nelson. With a runner at third and nobody out, he strikes out Shelby and gets Scioscia to pop up. That's about as good as you can get, and he really had Marshall 0-2 and evidently threw one in the wrong spot.
That's the yardstick that the baseball people use. What does he do? What does the pitcher do with that man at third base in less than 2 outs? That's good, just good pitching.
In talking about him, a scout said to me, and I love to hear that about a pitcher, he wants the ball every day.
He's not afraid, and he doesn't look over his shoulder over to the bullpen, see if any help is coming along.
So with 2 out in the 5th inning, here is Jeff Hamilton. Hamilton could be 2 for 2, but Walt Weiss has done a number on him, taking 1 in the hole and 1 behind second to throw him out each time. Right. When Oakland comes up in the 6th inning, they have Glenn Hubbard, Walt Weiss, and then Gene Nelson's spot, and way back in the shadows in right field, they have somebody throwing, so you know LaRusso's thinking hitter. 0-1. Fastball, high drive into left. Parker going back to the track, and Warren hands it. And the Dodgers leave Marshall at third at the end of 5. Dodgers 6, A's nothing. So now a great year with Oakland, and he'll be set to face the Dodgers in Game 3 at the Coliseum. So we're looking forward to that game. And he's got a lot of bulldog in him, and you can expect quite a battle with Welsh.
Yes, you can. And old big Frank Kinsack as we look at LaRusso.
If you want to play manager now in the inning, you have Hubbard and Weiss, and then you're starting to think about a pinch hitter. Number 1, he has 3 switch hitters in the dugout, Phillips, Polonia, and Javier. And he has right-hand hitters, Gallego, Steinbach, and then Don Baylor. So it might depend on how the inning progresses, how many get aboard as to what he does. A chopper to Hamilton. 1 away.
You try to pull him, you're playing right in his hands.
I'm a little surprised, too. After all the base running and all the maneuvering that Hershiser has gone through, I can't believe a hitter would swing at the first pitch in the 6th inning.
Even if he didn't, Hershiser, with that pitch, has made 56 pitches in 5 1/3 innings. He's faced 16 batters in that time, not 1 to second base. Look at that. 37 strikes, 20 balls. More importantly, the first pitch strikes to 11 of 15 hitters, 16 hitters now.
1 ball and no strikes to Walt Weiss, who has been outstanding at shortstop. Walt with the bat hit back to the box in the 3rd inning. Hershiser made a nice play to get him. That's foul. Luis Polonia, a switch hitter, is on deck. And, of course, you would always remember him if you just look at his pants.
I asked him, because everybody, when I said it on our Game of the Week, why didn't I ask him? He gave me a great answer. He said, I don't know.
1 ball and 1 strike.
Well, why do you wear them down low? I don't know. They feel good.
I always remember the great line, Ring Lardner, writing about the father driving the car, and the kids are in the car. Shut up, he explained.
That's about what he was going to tell me.
2-1.
They feel good.
A chopper to Sachs, and he short hops to get him. The National League answer to Polonia would be Roger McDowell. McDowell, his pants go straight down into his shoes. 2 down. Nothing like style.
I said, don't you think maybe you'd lose a strike if you wore them higher? Maybe you'd get... So now they feel good like this.
Well, one thing for sure, it is more comfortable because you don't have any pressure to cut the circulation off in your legs.
Well, I would guess. But then again, you're not supposed to make a ball club by whether you make GQ or not, huh?
Right. So here's Polonia, a first ball hitter. Thank you very much. As he pops it up.
Trailing by 6. That's the change in baseball right there. It's the biggest change I know.
So they're gone in the 6th, and at the end of 5 1/2, 6-0 Dodgers.
The 1988 World Series is brought to you by the Heartbeat of America Today Show.
Bottom of the 6th inning, as they towel off Orel Hershiser, it is really the heat, not that he has worked that hard. To illustrate the point, in the 6th inning, he made only 5 pitches to get the 3 outs. And in a sense, it would appear Oakland has played right into his hand. He's been running the bases, and they refuse to make him work.
And they also try to pull the ball and get the ground ball. He's made 61 pitches in 6 innings. He has faced the minimum. He's had 2 double plays to help him.
And in the inning where he made only 5 pitches, 2 of the 3 hitters were Glenn Hubbard and Luis Polonia, as we look at Kurt Young. And they are the wee men in the attack. And yet, instead of making him pitch, try to get a board, anything at all. They went up there hacking right away. And hacking is Griffin, but he hits it to Canseco in right center. One away.
You know, the point you make about throwing that base on balls, you could scotch tape those two guys together. They would make one Canseco.
Well, that's right. One is about 5'7", the other 5'8", and it's just shocking down 6-0 that they would not try to make Hershiser. And here he comes, and he's made himself work with a single and a double, scored a run and knocked in one. And the fantasy for him continues. He's pitched a strong 6 innings of shutout ball. Hershiser singled to center in the third, and then with 2 strikes, doubled inside the right field foul line in the fourth.
You know, some people might be thinking they got a 6-run lead. Why not take him out of the ball game and save him to come back later on? I don't think Lasorda will.
Inside third and down the line. Hershiser is going to go 3 for 3 with 2 doubles.
They'll never get him out of the game now when you get 3 hits.
And what is it the American League always says? What's the fun of watching a pitcher hit?
That's right. He's had more base hits than the Oakland A's. The Oakland A's only have 2, and he's got 3, and he doesn't want, bring a jacket out. Now, he pulls it right by Lansford.
I tell you, we have a moment, and you were talking about why not take him out as we see his third hit. And he is expending energy more on the base paths than on the mound, and he'll wear Charlie Strasser's jacket again. The Dodgers, during the LCS, went to the bullpen 18 times. So the pen needs as much of a rest as he does.
And that is a strong point, and also the fact that he's going so good. I don't think the couple innings is going to make any difference, and why break the rhythm of what he has done?
So here is Sachs, grounded out twice and singled, 1 for 3. Ball 1.
You know, they make the point that the Oakland A's have hit more home runs than the St. Louis Cardinals, but tonight, can you imagine the pitcher for the Dodgers has out-hit the Oakland A's so far?
The key so far.
Oh, yes,
Yes.
because everybody on the Oakland A's, when they get in the batter's box, they're in scoring position.
Remember, when the A's come up in the 7th inning, and they've got to be just dying to break loose, it'll be Carney Lansford, Dave Henderson, and Jose Canseco, and then Dave Parker. So La Russa has some big cards yet to play. 1 ball, 1 strike. Comebacker. Kurt Young will make the play, and Hershiser stays at second.
You think he's wearing Charlie Strasser's jacket just to get Charlie a little publicity? He would be like him.
Oh, absolutely. I guarantee you that's why he's doing it, sure. Charlie Strasser, one of the 3 Dodger trainers, Bill Bueller, Pat Screener, and Charlie.
Probably superstitious, too? Lucky jacket? What do you think?
No, I don't think
I think
that.
it's just a fact that
I think
he's a
World
good guy.
Series, he's given Charlie Strasser a little publicity. Here's Tracy Woodson batting for Stubbs, and then he will stay in, and as we look at Charlie Strasser, minus his jacket, sitting between Steve Sachs and Fernando Valenzuela. Tracy Woodson will hit for Stubbs and then stay in. Hershiser at second base with 2 out in the 6th, and the Dodgers leading 6-0. On the corner. There's Franklin Stubbs. He had flied to left, single to right, and walked, sitting next to Mike Sharperson, another kid who is not eligible to play. Change fouled away. That's kind of a nice touch. You know, you play in and out with a club all year. You're not eligible, but they say, hey, where are you?
I went through that.
Did you?
DeRocher in '54. I wasn't eligible, and Leo insisted that I would go to Cleveland. It was great. I would catch batting practice. I traveled with the club. It was like winning a contest, 25 words or less. Why I want to go to the World Series with Leo DeRocher.
What I did on my summer vacation.
That's right.
0-2. Once again, we remind our viewers we'll be selecting the NBC Miller Lite Player of the Game at the conclusion of the game. So far, the suspense, of course, would be tremendous, right? Who it would be?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, I mean, it's overwhelming suspense.
It's like last night. We had such a tough time.
1 ball and 2 strikes. Hard breaking ball at the feet. 2-2 the count.
You know, it's sounds like I'm picking on Oakland, but when you stop to think about it, the Oakland A's so far have 2 extra base hits. Canseco's home run, Henderson's double. Hershiser has tied them.
And don't you know they're aware of that? 2 balls, 2 strikes. Popped in the air on the right side. Mark McGwire along with Hubbard, and it will be McGwire. So the Dodgers left Marshall at third in the 5th and Hershiser at second in the 6th, and we'll be back after these messages from your local station. You know, at the start of the night, we said there were a couple of things to keep an eye on with Hershiser. Number 1, the fact that he would throw strikes, and number 2, a lot of ground balls, and that gives you an idea of what's going on tonight.
2 balls in the outfield, and the ground balls, if they try to pull him, they are really in trouble, but that's a pretty good indication right there.
5 strikeouts, no walks, and he has allowed just 2 hits.
The top of the order in the 4th inning when he struck out everybody in the side, I mean, he was really throwing what you'd have to call the Hershiser pitch. Here it is. Now, here's Lansford with the strikeout pitch. He set him up. Henderson again outside after setting him up inside. Here's Canseco outside. 3 pitches you could diagram, but of course keep in mind he had set them all up. He had to do something before he got there, and he did it well.
And there's another thing I think that happened. That 4th inning was on the heels of the bottom of the 3rd where the Dodgers scored 5. And I think those big guys came up and each one was trying to catch up by himself. And that's why they were so susceptible to chasing that bad ball. So let's see what they do now in the 7th.
See if he pitches in the same way.
Chopper to 3rd, right under behind Jeb Hamilton and through. He would make that play, I believe, most of the time. He just started to come up, and it went by him. Tracy Woodson, the new first baseman, and it will be an error charged to Hamilton. He should make that play. Which
First
brings
pitch.
up a point, too. That's right, first pitch again.
You could see he just didn't get the tailgate down, and here's another look at it. He breaks to his left. Looks like he's in good shape. Really got his feet tangled.
The official score is Jack Lang of the Baseball Writers of America, Dave Nightingale of the Sporting News, and Vern Plagenhoff from Booth Newspapers. And that one an error all the way. So here's Dave Henderson. Woodson suddenly comes up to hold the runner on. He was behind the bag.
6-run lead, you figure him to be behind the bag, and then Earl really shouldn't be too concerned about Lansford at first.
Line foul down the right field line. Henderson has struck out twice, so he's a little hungry up there. Dave 0 for 2.
Just on what you said, Ben, you know, so far was the key word, because 2 pitches, these guys went to hacking. Lansford hits it by Hamilton, error, and first pitch, Henderson jumps on it. They don't look at that scoreboard and say, we'll take a strike.
0-1 with Canseco on deck. And a bunt foul back. Not a bad idea. You're down by 6. The third baseman is deep in the suburbs. You might as well lay it on and have the big guy come up and get you back in the game.
I have no problems with that play because they need base runners. You got to try to put him on any way you can. And is he loose?
That was the point earlier. Here is a big guy like Henderson at least thinking about moving Hershiser around. And the little guys, Hubbard and Polonia, go up there and hack and make out on the first pitch. 0-2. A chopper to Sachs. He backs up for the hop. They get one. Not in time. Carney Lansford in on the bag with a good hard slide, even though he does have a bad right elbow and it is heavily padded. He came right out of his shirt.
Tell you, he's a good athlete. And Griffin, Sachs gives him a good ball to handle. They're going to make one sure out, and Griffin just slides across the bag. And look at Lansford just going right in there, and Alfredo couldn't get that much on that throw.
One away, and here's Canseco. Slide to right and struck out. So the big boy here with a runner aboard. 1 out in the 7th. 6-0 Dodgers. Fastball and a towering fly ball. It's playable. John Shelby. Looked like that fly ball was so high that when it came down, it almost knocked Shelby down.
Drive him into the ground. First pitch again. The 3 hitters jumped on that first pitch.
I don't know. I guess it's too obvious that we must be completely out to lunch.
No, you can't be. You're trailing by 6. You need base runners. You just have to make Hershiser work a little bit. Now, Earl is calling Socha out there, and Woodson, he just wants to listen in because Earl will be the chairman of the board in this meeting.
Dave Parker, the hitter, is 2 for 2, single to center and a single to right. So Canseco has been silenced at least for his 3 at-bats. He made enough noise in the second inning when he hit his grand slam last night, but he has drawn blank since. 2 down. They're not going to hold Henderson. They don't expect him to do any running down 6-0. 1.
And I'll bet you Earl made that pitch because he said he might be hitting the first pitch. I'm not going to lay it in there. And I'll pitch from behind right here because he got that ball low and inside, hoping that he was swinging and would chase the bad ball.
It is hard to believe when you realize what a good ball club the Oakland A's are. And make no mistake, they are a dynamite team. But going to second base is Henderson, and take a good look at him. He is the first member of the A's to reach second base tonight. That's a collector's item.
It is. Put that on videotape.
So Parker, who is certainly no stranger to Dodger Stadium, he is 3 for 3. McGuire will be the hitter. And again, La Russa is sitting there waiting for one of his big guys to do something big, and the telephone is ringing in the Dodger bullpen. So for the first time tonight, we will have some throwing down there in a moment. Remember, the Dodgers went to the bullpen 18 times during the LCS, and among others brought in Leary and Hershiser in relief. 4-1.
McGuire has tried to pull the ball, although it took a great play the last time to get that double play. Griffin and Sachs turned it over, but when you try to pull Hershiser, you are in trouble.
And down in the Dodger bullpen now, just beginning to stretch it out, is the former A, Jay Howell. So there's a fly ball to right. Marshall is there. And the A's lead 2. And at the end of 6½, Dodgers 6, A's nothing. Now here's Bob Costas with tonight's special feature.
The keys to success, BP, the selection here is overwhelmingly obvious. Orel Hershiser working on a 3-hit shutout, and at the plate, he's 3 for 3 with an RBI, a run scored, and a couple of doubles. It's been that way all year for him. 23 wins, the record string of scoreless innings, the playoff clinching victory. As it stands now, he's scheduled to work Game 5 on 3 days rest, and if there is a 7th, both he and Lasorda say he could go on 2 days rest.
And watch Orel Hershiser shorten up as if to bunt. Twice he does that. Base hit, fakes the bunt and hits it, and now he pulls one down the third base line. That's the first time a pitcher has had 3 hits in a World Series game since Art Neff did it in 1924.
And the really interesting thing for Orel Hershiser, certainly a night to remember anyway, and think back to how the evening started for him. As he was warming up in the Dodger bullpen, his mother and father threw out the first pitch. What a night.
You think he looks up and says, "How you think I'm doing, Mom?" What a night he's had.
Hey.
It right.
Another interesting thing, they showed Magic Johnson a few moments ago. There's something developing in the World Series which is a little surprising. You know how you talk about the home court advantage? If the Dodgers win tonight, and they're leading 6-0 in the 7th inning, it would be the 12th straight victory for the home team in the World Series.
Minnesota St. Louis last year was something, and here it is again. So
12 straight if they hold on. And of course that's also encouraging for Oakland because they're going home to play 3. 0-1 to count to Hatcher. Single to left, single to center, hit back to the box. Was aboard when Marshall hit his home run in the 3rd inning. 0-1. Pretty good pitch. Eric Plunk. There's Magic Johnson taking in the ball game. Eric Plunk. He's out of Wilmington, California. Big fella. 6'5", 210.
He's the hardest thrower on that staff.
0-2 to Hatcher. Boy, he is 6'5", 210. Fouled away.
He came over in the Ricky Henderson deal, and you just saw the curveball he throws. He can be wild high. You have to make him throw strikes, but when it comes to a fastball, he'll be 95, 96 when he's got his good fastball.
One thing that was encouraging for him, and as you mentioned, his control has been a problem. It seems to go hand in hand when you throw that hard. In his last 9 appearances, which meant 17 innings during the regular season, he only walked 3 batters. And of course, if he starts throwing strikes, he's really going to be a room full. Great name for a pitcher. Eric Plunk.
Love it.
1-2. Half swing. See you later, Hatch. 1 away. It's that rising fastball just exploded.
That's that four-seamer that rises, and it's tough to lay off because it's right in your eyes and you see it so good. He starts, he decides not to, but went too far.
So Hatcher, who is certainly not a strikeout hitter, you blow him away, and that's a tribute to your stuff. And now here's Marshall, who is the 0-2 nightmare hitter for Tony La Russa. He struck out 0-2 in the first inning, hit an 0-2 pitch for a 3-run home run in the third inning, and then Tony saw him hit an 0-2 pitch for a triple.
That was as hard as he's thrown since he's been in there. He just blew it right by him.
No balls, 1 strike. Breaking ball. Imagine after that fastball to come back and he's 0-2 again.
All right, now, if he gets near the plate, it's just bad pitching. He's got to throw it over his head, or he's got to bounce that ball up here. Let's see what they do.
No balls, 2 strikes for the 4th time tonight. Okay.
All right, okay. Because I tell you, he's liable to swing at anything and just nail it.
1-2 to Mike Marshall. Triple and a home run, 3 RBIs. Okay, you can see now why they think so highly of Eric Plunk. Boy, he throws hard.
And he can be wild high, but it looks so good, you're going to chase it.
He takes care of Hatcher and Marshall, and you can be at the other end of this.
It's just a fastball, high, hard one, and he just blew it right by him.
So 2 down in the 7th inning, and John Shelby grounded out twice, struck out. If it's around the plate, he's usually after it.
Tell me that the curveball doesn't curve.
0-1.
He throws a high fastball to get Marshall and comes back with that downer.
6-0 Dodgers in the 7th. Hasse, Hubbard, and Weiss due up in the 8th. That is the nightmare spot for Shelby. Up and away. He has rarely ever made contact up there.
He's not going to make contact if he throws another one there because he's not only missing it, he's behind it.
Well, he tried to get there. He got a little high. 1-2. At 6'5", coming down off that slope, he probably winds up close to being only 55 feet away from home plate.
I think if he throws a curveball now, he's got him because it's going to be like dropping.
Fouled away. The other thought, talking about where the pitcher winds up in his delivery, 50-some-odd feet, and I thought about it this morning, how terrifying it must be to pitch to Jose Canseco. Now, remember that line drive home run? Supposing that ball had been hit right back at the pitcher.
You would have had just a pair of shoes there. No, nothing else.
Oh. 1 ball, 2 strikes. 2-2. The most terrifying looking hitter I have ever seen.
I know what you're going to say.
Frank Howard.
Yeah, no question about it.
But I'll tell you what, Canseco will do.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. He's going to swing, and there'll be a grease spot, 2 shoes, and you'll bronze him and put him on your rear view mirror.
2-2 to John Shelby.
How about that poor Lee Walls when they were playing with the Dodgers? If we look at Canseco and Howard was hitting, and he missed the squeeze sign. And he swung away and hit a foul ball. He was laying on the ground, and when he fell down and the trainer came there, he said, "Am I alive or dead?" I mean, that's dangerous.
Yeah, he was scary. 2 balls, 2 strikes. Remember at the start of the show, we showed you the dent in the center field camera that was made by a ball hit by Canseco last night. There's the camera. The dent is in the lower right-hand corner. and Jimmy Mott had him autograph it. Imagine hitting a ball that hard. 3-2. Got him. And he came inside to take care of Shelby, who is struggling and goes 0 for 4. Impressive inning for Eric Plunt. Strikes out the side. Badly for Tim Cruz of the Dodgers. Mike Sharperson unable to play. And here's another good guy who's been deprived of a chance to play. Matt Young, who lives in nearby Pasadena, pitched for the Dodgers last year, and he had the Tommy John operation about 5.5 weeks ago. He's got a big zipper inside his left elbow, and I pray that he'll be able to come back because he's 29 years old and a super guy. Matt Young. In the 8th, 6-0 Dodgers. And Ron Hassey grounded out fly to left. Jose Gonzalez is now in right field for the Dodgers, so Mike Marshall comes out. There's Jose. Right. Is this the first World Series where we have 2 Jose's in right field in a night game in Southern California?
On natural grass.
You got it. Chopper foul and the count 0-2. Dodgers 6 runs, 10 hits, and 1 error. The A's no runs, 3 hits, and you're looking at them.
There's the attack right there. It looks good to see him blow that bubble instead of chewing that tobacco.
The Cobra. 4-1, 1-2. Interesting, when the Dodgers had their scouts explaining the various members of the Oakland A's and how to pitch to them and what to expect offensively from them, what they did, I think, is what you would do. They tried to familiarize the Dodgers, and they would take an Oakland player and say, he's so-and-so in the National League. So everybody said, well, okay, well, who would you play and say is Jose Canseco? And they said Eric Davis, who of course doesn't look at all like him. He looks like Midnight, just 2 hands straight up, but he has that kind of ability.
I tell you, it would be tough when you start to think of going through a whole team like that. Who do you have in the National League? And that says it pretty well there. Eric Davis and Canseco.
Yeah. Jose Canseco. Hassey just trying somehow to get aboard. Remember, Hershiser has had perfect control up to here. Fouled away. Nothing Dodgers. They got 5 in the 3rd on 5 hits, including a 3-run home run by Marshall, and the inning was started by Hershiser's single.
That's something, huh?
Russell listening to Joe Ferguson and moving Shelby in center. Strike 3 called to Ron Hassey on a pitch up, and the best you could say about it was a borderline pitch. And Hassey didn't think it was even close to the border.
That's one of those pitches on the playground you'd say too close to take. Here it is. It looks like it just runs away from him. You can see it just start from the middle of the plate, and you can see Socia trying to give him some help as he catches that ball and kind of shifts that glove in. Hassey doesn't believe it.
I think Mike kind of pulled that pitch
he did
too on the
way
corner.
He caught it, he didn't catch it up with the face of the glove showing the umpire, kind of caught it sideways.
Here's Hubbard, and Glenn takes a pitch. 1 ball and no strikes. Popped up to Hershiser, grounded to 3rd in the 6th inning. 0 for 2. Hershiser 3 hits, no walks, 6 strikeouts. And he has 2 singles, a single and 2 doubles tonight with the bat.
But no base on balls is really a telltale.
1-1. I've never seen a pitcher in the groove that he has been in for as long as he's been in the groove.
And as he got close to that record, the pressure certainly mounted.
2 balls, 1 strike. change took a little off it.
But you know what he talks about once again with that computer he has? He says in the 5th inning, he says, I regroup and I talk about a different energy level because I've settled into the game now and I don't want to get complacent and I have to tell myself I have to go to a higher level of energy. I mean, whether it works or not, it works for him. That's all that counts.
I got a footnote to that. Typical modern-day ball player. Somebody said to him after all this computer talk, what kind of a computer do you use? And he smiled and he said, I haven't signed an endorsement yet.
All right, Oro.
3-2.
Well, after that, I bet he'll get a call in the morning.
He might. Walt Weiss on deck. Missed. He could be tiring now. Remember, he went 3-2 to Hasse and barely got a strike. Then he goes 3-2 to Hubbard and walks it. So the needle is approaching empty, and you can bet Lasorda will watch him carefully. He had Jay Howell get up in the 7th inning. Now, it's not that he's made so many pitches in this game, only 84 pitches, but this is the end of a long, long year.
And I'll tell you another thing he's doing as we look at that bullpen, he's starting to ask for a new ball just a little more than he did early in the game. That usually tells you something.
Here's Walt Weiss, 0 for 2, swinging at the first pitch.
You got to feel he might be tiring. You would think he would be tiring. He just walked the man. But if he hits the ball, hits a ground ball, you're helping him out. Make him work.
Ground ball, and it's to Woodson. He goes to Griffin. Back to Woodson, too late. So a 3-6 force play, and you have 2 out in the 8th inning. The Dodgers have turned 2, and they've come close on a couple.
Woodson, he gives a good throw. I mean, Hubbard not in the way at all. Griffin will flick that bag, and he'll just doesn't get enough on that throw. Watch Woodson come off that bag. He was off the bag, so not even close.
And now you'll hear the boos in the background, and they are directed at Don Baylor. Remember when Don made the statement about how Oakland wanted to play the best, and since the Mets had won 100 games in the National League, they were the best, and they wanted to play New York. This crowd doesn't forget it.
No, and they read the papers. He has really been some kind of a good luck charm, though, wherever he goes. Bruce Hurst, after the League Championship Series, asked him, he said, where are you going next year? I want to know who's going to win.
Well, a word on Baylor, a dead low ball hitter, and he's up against kind of a sinker ball pitcher, although he's tiring and the ball's coming up a little. And Russell has the outfield with Shelby shaded a little to left center.
There's the quote that really got him in hot water.
Since everybody tries to jam him, he gets hit a lot, as you no doubt know. Weiss goes trailing 6-0 and steals it. The simple reason, the old adage in baseball, if they're going to give it to you, take it. And the Dodgers were giving it to him, so he took it.
Woodson was way behind him, and Sachs and Griffin way back. You get a walk down there.
Baylor has been hit 267 times in his career. 1-1 to Don. 39 years old. 2 out, 8th inning, 6-0 Dodgers. In there. That was a surprise because that's kind of his area to hit.
But I tell you, it's a tough pitch to hit because it's on that outside corner, kind of sinking, and unless you make up your mind you're going to drive it to the opposite field, it's a ground ball. He's got him in great shape now. He can do whatever he wants as far as setting up the pitcher, going after him. Stay outside or go inside to set up the 2-2. Let's see where Socha sets up.
1-2. Fouled away. Upstairs, off to the right, out of play. Don has been playing professional baseball since 1967, and he first came up to the big leagues in 1970. He's heard just about every kind of a crowd reaction there could be.
Belcher wants to make sure what Hershiser wants to do, because I thought that last pitch was really too good a pitch. Against Baylor, Hershiser has picked it up a little bit, 80 miles, 88, 89. The last pitch was 90 miles per hour.
I'd almost look for a pitch in the dirt.
I would too. I see if he chases it at least to the outside part of the plate.
1-2.
There it is.
Can't swing, got him. And talking about old buddies, Rick Honeycutt comes out of the bullpen to pitch here in the 8th inning. A strike. Honeycutt, along with Welch. In fact, I guess if you examine the trades that involve the Dodgers and A's who have changed uniforms, there's a fly ball to right. It was not only a great trade for each team, but each team traded away very popular players.
And that makes a difference on the ball club. You know, if a guy's a troublemaker, hardly anything is said, and you hate to see the good guys go.
The first thing Honeycutt did, and several of the others, when they arrived here in the ballpark, they were in Lasorda's office.
Well, I remember Stewart going in there and serving him, because he had that, when Bob Costas was doing that Eat the Meal with Lasorda's show, and Stewart came in and had some fun with him.
Honeycutt has a great smile, soft-spoken, modest, and is one of the great competitors on the mound. You would never know it if you met him. He's so easygoing, but not when he's at work, and he's working. 0-1. Honeycutt working on Jeff Hamilton, who was robbed of 2 hits tonight. He could easily be 2 for 3, except for Walt Weiss. Good sinker, 1 and 2.
See, that's where statistics are kind of misleading. He's 0 for 7, but if it wasn't for Weiss, as you just mentioned, he'd have himself a couple base hits and maybe be on his way. But they say, man, he's not hitting at all.
Yeah, Walt Weiss has been sparkling. 1 ball, 2 strikes. Fouled off. One of the great things about Honeycutt is he knows his limitations. And that's tough to do. You're a big leaguer. You think, well, I can go out there and get anybody. But he knows he can get you, but only with certain pitches thrown at his space and rhythm and time and everything else. He always pitches within himself.
That's very hard to do.
Yeah, no ego trip with him. Fouled away.
Because the comics all want to be singers, and the singers want to be comics, and pitchers who use finesse want to be hard throwers.
Last night's starting pitcher, Tim Belcher, came from Oakland to the Dodgers. Rick Honeycutt went the other way. 1 ball, 2 strikes. Honeycutt was in 2 LCS with the Dodgers, but he was not in the World Series. He appeared in 83 and in 85. 83 with the Phillies. 85 always remembered as the Jack Clark series. See you later, Hamilton. 2 down. Dennis Eckersley sitting quietly in the corner, very prominently displayed last night, and as we mentioned, we have nothing but admiration for the way he handled himself because of this man's dramatic home run. Figure they'll see some more of each other before this one is through.
I would think so.
Strike to Griffin.
I thought Eckersley in the pregame show made a profound statement. He said, you really know the character of a ball player by his failure and what he does when he has to come back, and I'll be back.
What Tony La Russa has done tonight is air out the bullpen a little. After Storm Davis, it's been Gene Nelson, Kurt Young, Eric Plunk, and now Rick Honeycutt. Good breaking ball. That's that slider. It looks like a fastball right over the plate, and you saw Griffin swing at the air angrily. It looks just like a fastball, and then it's inside. And meanwhile, the star of the game, without a doubt, Orel Hershiser on deck.
He's been all world tonight. Shutout, 3 hits.
1 and 2 to Alfredo. There's that slider again. Oh, it's not a Steve Carlton slider, anything like that, but it still is tough.
But he's getting it in a good spot, and it is biting. The slider that really gets you in trouble, the one they call a slider, and he has the flat one. In fact, that's the one that Eckersley threw to Gibson. It just got in the strike zone. It was flat. This one bites. Look at it break down, across, and down.
He saved 7 games during the year, used sparingly. 2 balls and 2 strikes to Alfredo Griffin. The Dodgers with 5 in the 3rd, 1 in the 4th. That's not a runaway against Oakland. But Oral Hershiser has just been magnificent, and that's the story. He's got a 3-hit shutout. 2-2. Sinker away. So what a number he did on Alfredo Griffin. Sliders down and in, a sinker away, and Oral has a date with the 9th inning. They will have Lansford, Henderson, and Canseco. Garney Lansford grounded to 3rd, struck out, and reached on an error. 0 for 3. The Dodger bullpen will loosen up back of Hershiser just in case. In the dirt, ball 1. That's Jay Howell down in the Dodger bullpen, and of course, because of the suspension, it's been a while since he last pitched, about 9 days. So if he's brought in, he could be fighting control. 1 ball, no strikes to Garney Lansford. Ball 2. For Tony La Russa, a bitter defeat last night, and then the unlikeliest thing of all, seeing his big power-hitting ball club shut out. Whoops, that almost got Carney. Ball 3. So sinker ball, Oral Hershiser is starting to come up now, and Lasorda knows that's a sign of fatigue.
I would think he'd like to let him finish, but I don't know if he's going to let him finish. Make him hit the ball is what he's hollering. I'm sure of that.
3-0. In there. 3-1. To show you what kind of a game Hershiser has pitched, the A's have managed to get only 2 men to second base, and 1 was on a stolen base. And he's walked him. But he's struggling now, no doubt about it. He gave up a 3-2 count and got a strikeout to Hasse in the 8th. Now Jesse Orosco has joined Howell in the bullpen. He went 3-2 and walked Hubbard and got out of it. And now he surrendered his 2nd walk.
Looking at Lasorda, I can't help but think before that the workout day, how he was talking about his ragtag team and how they're overmatched and how they're overwhelming the underdogs, but we'll be here to show up. A lot of people talking about Oakland A's in 4 in this series, and they're looking at being down by 2.
And he's missing now.
Scioscia's trying to find something. To start him off with the curveball, even though he is a first ball fastball hitter, he's just trying to find a strike. That's what he's trying to find. He's struggling.
The runner goes. Since they're not holding him, it's a strike. That's the 2nd time. Remember, they let Weiss go in the 8th inning. Now they turn Lansford loose since the first baseman, Woodson, is way back. They're not interested in him. Perinoski's the man. If he can spot a flaw in the mechanics, Ron, with his chin in his hand, will be out to the mound. 1 ball, 1 strike. A chopper to 3rd, a look at 2nd, and they get the out at 1st. And of course, that's a perfect double play ball if Lansford were not at second base. 1 out in the 9th. The executive producer of NBC Sports, Michael Weissman, the coordinating producer and director of tonight's game, Harry Coyle. Produced by John J. Filippelli and George Finkel. Pregame produced by Les Dennis. Pregame and replay director, Andy Rosenberg. Replay producer, David Neal. Technical directors, Lenny Stucker and Marilyn Altman. Right.
This crowd seems to think if we make some noise, maybe we can perk him up and get behind him, and since then, he's gotten the ball over the plate.
0-1, the count to Jose Canseco. In there, strike 2.
Canseco doesn't believe it.
And now the crowd, using their own energy, trying to will a little extra stamina to Hershiser.
Trying to use jumper cables from the crowd to Hershiser. Get a little energy in there.
0-2 to Jose Canseco. Flied to right, struck out, and flied to center. Some of the crowd, many in the crowd, on their feet. Ground ball to short. Alfredo perfectly positioned to get him. 2 out in the ninth. And now it's a case of everybody up. A crowd of 56,000 at Dodger Stadium tonight. And standing in the way of a shutout for Hershiser is the big Dave Parker. Orel had 8 shutouts during the regular year, was brilliant in the league championship series, and here he goes now to get Parker. Parker 3 for 3, all 3 of the Oakland hits. 2 singles to center and a single to right.
He's going to go off the full windup, I think, man.
Yep, he's not going to pay any attention to Carney Lansford. Wrinkled high, ball 1.
That really tells you a lot about the command that he's had. 100 pitches, and he's 1 out away from a complete game, a shutout victory.
And normally you'd see maybe 130 pitches. In there, 1-1, and it gets louder here now.
Breaking balls, 2 of them.
He has done what he has done so well all year. Throwing strikes, throwing ground balls, and he's faced only 4 batters over the minimum tonight. 1-1. Boy, did he ever break off a deuce on that one.
3 curveballs. He has just completely stayed away from the fastball, and right now he's walking behind the mound, and what he's doing is regrouping, deciding, do I get him now or do I get him on the next pitch?
That was one of the meanest curveballs he's thrown all night.
Well, he had it in a great spot, and that even makes it look meaner.
And now the chant, Oro, Oro, 1-2.
He's shaking them off. He knows what he wants to do when he walks behind the mound. He decided, and now he's going to come with it. One ball, 2 strikes. Got him. I don't know what it is on the Chinese calendar, but it's the year of the Hershiser, the year of the Bulldog. It certainly is, and I don't think any of those strikes that he made on Parker were really in the strike zone. He placed it so well, and you saw it all when you saw Peranowski and Hershiser kind of embrace. And a somewhat chastened Oakland ball club that won 104 games, blew away Boston in the championship series, now must go home and regroup. Hershiser, the first pitcher to throw shutouts in the league championship series and the World Series on a game that saw his mother and father throw out the first ball.
The new Buick Riviera.
Tonight's NBC Miller Lite player of the game is Orel Hershiser. His mother and dad threw out the first pitch. He threw out the last. Miller Lite happy to present a check for $1,000 in the name of Orel Hershiser.